partnerships are important because it comes back to the D word, which is diversity. And universities and people in the academic space think and approach things differently to those of us in the business space. And we're both right, and we can both benefit from each other. And so I did appreciate your comment that, you know, engagement can be coffee or it can be a bit greater. I think we've got to remember that coffee type engagement's the best way to start, because you can get a good understanding of where you are then and what you can actually do. And so for us at Wesleyan, it was very helpful to have our eyes opened by some of the thoughts you and your colleagues produced in the Leadership Commission report in West Midlands Combined Authority. And that helped us realise what we could do and how we could move there. As we started doing activities from that, we then further had further conversations with you, and as we're still in conversations for sort of enhanced work from that. But it's a question for me of understanding what the university sector can do and provide. That helps me then and my colleagues work out what we can ask you to do, rather than sort of, if you come to us with, can you help us do A, B, and C? I need to be fairly mature in the relationship to actually be able to answer that question. If you come from cold on that, I don't think I'd have got there, and we wouldn't have made any progress. But for me, I think it's what your work did was give us some great hard evidence of putting into sort of data gut views we had in the inclusion and diversity space. You said, well, I've done this and this and this is here and this is here. That's great. That helps us there. And it sort of firms up and gives you a sort of firm base from which to base your views. It also gives us something to work with you on, almost test and learn, as we call it at work, or experimenting, you'd probably call it, as to what may or may not work. And I think at times in business, you often think that if I do A, B will follow, then C comes there. Life's never that simple. And I think you've helped us understand that there's scenarios out, and what works well in one area doesn't work well in other areas. You can always provide us with links across to people doing similar work elsewhere. So for me, it's been a very great relationship over the time. I think, I'm forgetting how long we've known each other now. Is it about 2 years, I think, or something like that? And I think if you compare our first meeting to where we are now, it's chalk and cheese. But that's a positive, because we didn't know each other at all at the start. And working with universities in business, we're focused on business, and universities to us are a source of graduates if we're at that space. But universities need to work with us to show what they can offer and how they can help us deliver what we want to deliver and what you want to deliver and help society deliver.
Our relationship with York is much younger than Rogers. But what I would say is, through all my other experience and also through this process, I think what really worked with York is just the fact that they were ready and you were ready and prepared. You had a team who were fast to respond, but also listen to what we were talking about and actually move towards kind of where we were, as well as building on our initial thoughts. Because I think it's probably changed for quite a lot from the original brief, having had discussions with Bryony and the rest of the team. It's very important with a partner that you bring complementary skills and resources, which is part of what we built our business on. But the whole academic area is something that we're not strong in this area, and that's why we come for a partnership. But the main thing is actually having a partner who listens and is open and is professional and ready to move. It's the speed at which business moves is quite often different from the speed at which universities move. I think in order to make these things work, you need to be moving at kind of similar paces. So I think that's one of the things that really, really worked well here, is the fact that you're professional and ready to go.
This was the first partnership with a business. Much of my research involves partnerships, perhaps on a particular project with local authorities, NHS services, and charities. But this was the first partnership with a business. So I had a lot to learn about the business world. And Mark's absolutely right about even down to the what might seem quite insignificant, the pace at which decisions need to be made, and their ways of working. So I've learned, and I think that's always the case whenever you are establishing some sort of partnership, is finding out about each other, because often our understandings of each other might need some sort of development and correction. So we know how each other works, understanding each other's organisations and how they work. So it as Roger was saying, there's that need for just conversation. And a word perhaps that hasn't come up yet, but I think is absolutely critical, is respect. respect for each other, and what you are collectively bringing to the sort of the table for discussion and exploration.
It's about the impact that we can make. So the research that we do within the walls of the university is intellectually challenging and it's interesting to us. But once it's applied and it goes out into the world, then it becomes important. And that's really the difference for us. Having different perspectives and a partner who's very engaged in what we're doing really helps us to make our work applicable to the world. And we couldn't do that without partners. We can imagine what the world is like, and I work very largely with engineers. So we have an engineering perspective on the world, and it's not really the only perspective on the world. And we come to realise that as engineers, and actually having different perspectives helps us to make the work that we do not only applicable and useful, but also ethical and correct and desirable for society. So that's really a huge change for engineers to think about things. We have a real desire to have a two-way traffic in this conversation. So we often talk about developing our technology, which is ethical technology, but actually what we also want is technology-inspired ethics